Good evening. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge the town of Edson is located on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral lands of the Niqawak, Soto, Siksika, Pakani, Kainai, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and the Ipitimisoak Métis Nations. We honor the knowledge of this land, the elders and youth which gather here, and our ancestors who have gathered here for centuries. Can I get a motion, please, that Council adopt the agenda for the May 21st, 2024 regular meeting as presented? Go ahead, Councillor Chenard.
I'll make the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Chenard. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the May 7th, 2024 regular meeting of Council be adopted as presented? Go ahead, Councillor Chachka.
I move to adopt the minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Chachka. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. We have no public hearings and no delegations. We have reading of bylaws. Can I get a motion that Council give first reading to land use bylaw number 2296? Go ahead, Councillor Moore.
I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. And we'll hand things over to Mr. Clayton Kitlitz to present on this evening. Go ahead, Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. I just prepared a short verbal presentation for this evening. So basically, we're asking for support of first reading of Land Use Bylaw 2296. We are now at just over 2 years of work on this project to rewrite the town's land use bylaw. The bylaw itself, the draft in its form, I shouldn't say current form, the draft was first presented or open to the public on February 13th of this year. So it's been basically available for review and input since then. Council did hear and consider feedback and input from the public and stakeholders during the April 8th, 2024 public hearing. Council will note the report package does include the updated change log, and these are the changes that were reflected post the April 8th public hearing. Won't be presenting those in detail today. We'd rather save those for what we've scheduled for as a second public hearing on June 4th, where we'll go over that log in detail. And present those changes. So really, Mr. Mayor, we've listened, we've made some edits, and now we're at that point where it's important for council to consider this bylaw and start the decision-making process. So with that, we'll certainly answer any questions council may have. Just to note that Becky Sobey from Urban Systems has joined us virtually, just in case there's a question that I can't answer. But with that, we're recommending the council give first reading.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kitlitz, and we will open the floor to questions from council regarding land use bylaw number 2296. Council, do you have any questions? Seeing none, we are going to have the public hearing on June 4th, and Mr. Kitlitz, just to clarify, that public hearing is just for the changes that we have made since the initial public hearing, correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's what administration will be presenting. We'll go through that log in detail and then go over the changes. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Well, council, if we have no questions, comments, or concerns, I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Kitlitz, and thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Council.
All right, we're moving on to reports from administration. Can I get a motion, please, that council accept the May 21st, 2024 capital projects update as information? Go ahead, Councillor Bevan.
I'll make it so.
Thank you. And we are going to have a presentation this evening from Mr. Amria McHale, who is our capital projects manager. Come on up, sir.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Over the coming few minutes, I will go through the capital projects or items for 2024 to provide a brief update on these capital projects. However, before I start with the presentation, I would like to clarify that not all the items I'm presenting on are under my umbrella. So some of them under utilities and fleet, some of them under transportation. My colleagues chose to give me the honor to present before council. So I might not have all the answers to the questions. If you have questions, I will ask for help from my colleagues. And we divided the presentation into 3 sections. I will start with the fleet and utilities. Item number 1 was replacement for unit V134, which is 2013 Dodge 1500 half-ton 4x4. The contract awarded to Metro Ford located in Calgary. The vehicle model is XLT model Ford F-150. Delivery date is expected in August 2024. The options we included are LED headlights and fog lights, and we upgraded tire sizing to 18 inches. Resale value, the reason we chose these upgrades to increase the chance for having a better resale value. The approved budget for this item is $75,000, and the awarded amount is $71,595. New asphalt repair trailer, that's item number 2. The contract award, it's awarded to Industrial Machine from Atchison, Alberta. Delivery date, it's delivered on May 9th, 2024. This equipment is already in action. Some of you may have seen it on the street. That's all the equipment specification met specification requested, and we kind of upgraded the warranty to 24 months instead of 12 months. That's for the equipment itself, and the trailer has 5-year warranty. Approved budget for this item is $120,000, and the awarded amount is $97,550. Fleet projects out for tender. We have unit V141 replacement. It's a 2013 Ford F-250 crew cab 3/4 ton 4x4. It's a service truck. The tender posted on April 29th, 2024, and close date was May 16th. Up to the point I submitted this presentation, I did not get information regarding who the lowest bidder or who we awarded to. And for unit E114 replacement, it's ICE resurfacer. The tender posted also in April 29th, 2024, and closing date was May 16th. For the fleet and utilities upcoming projects for 2024 projects, we have the fluoride plan. It's a regulatory contract signed with Advision. It's our consultant, and work has started. Water treatment, degas regulatory also. It's a design. It will start once the fluoride work is complete. Connecting the water well number 30 to the town's distribution network. Advision is coming out this week to do some pre-work. For operations, transportation, and parks, upcoming 2024 projects, Vision Park, and directional signage for Wilmore Park. These are coming projects. Item MT Trackless 7 for parks. It's articulating all-season tractor. This was a 2023 item, and it's carried over to 2024. So the tender was issued in May 4th, 2023. Tender closed in May 25th, 2023. 2023 budget carry forward is $210,000. It's awarded to Johnson Equipment. The amount for award is $183,167.84. Delivery date is February 16, 2024, so it has been delivered. The model is trackless MT7, 60 inches snow blower with sidewalk, shutter twin auger, rear salt and sand spreader with single agitator. The new item, new plow blade for the airport. The budget was $35,000. Purchase price is $25,939.75. Acquisition date was March 1st, 2024, and the model is CAT 966G. Any questions before I move to the new section?
Councillor Pisichny, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair. On the very first slide, I see the one vehicle is coming out of Metro in Calgary. I'm going to assume, but I have a question on it, is that price include freight? Is that this freight on board with that? And I find it difficult to believe that a Calgary dealer could deliver a vehicle to Edson less than one of our local dealers could.
I think I'll ask Mr. Briscoe or Mr. O'Sullivan.
I can answer that.
Come on up, Mr. Briscoe.
Through the mayor to Mr. Councillor Pisichny. Yeah, we're also surprised too. To be honest with you, to be fair, we hand delivered the tender packages to our 3 local dealers and we put it out on APC. And when we review it, Calgary dealership, I believe, has got the last 4 out of our vehicles that we put out. So I'm not sure what needs to change or what can change. We do put it out, like I said, hand deliver our tender packages to our local fleet dealerships. And we do put it on an APC and it comes back delivered to our door. Typically, they'll drive it out to us for that price with no that's freight on board to Edson.
Thank you, Mr. Briscoe. Any other questions?
That's your turn. Thank you so much.
All right. You can continue on with your presentation.
Sure.
Now I'll move to the infrastructure projects. I'll start with 6 Ave repairs, which was part of the flood repairs for last year. It started in 2023. Keon Infrastructure Ltd has returned to rectify deficiencies for sidewalk and sagging sanitary. If you see in the picture, this happening this month. They already removed the defected sidewalk and they poured a new one. Also, they repaired the sanitary, and right now they are working on the backfill for the granular and planning for asphalt tomorrow or the day after. Power line burial on 46th Street between 6th and 9th Avenue. This one we received the quote. Right now, Fortis in the design process. We received the quote on Friday. We signed it and sent it back to Fortis. The quote came for $282,000 roughly. It's within our budget. However, that doesn't include Shaw or TELUS or any other utilities. This is just for Fortis, so we are expecting some extra cost to come later on. Right now, they are working on the design, and they will be having an easement agreement with the school and the 2 apartment buildings down the road to make sure they can have their utilities on their land. The construction phase is planned to take place during the summer months, July or August. I made this clear to them that we cannot start construction until the school is over to ensure the safety of our residents. I'll move to the next project, which is the construction of Township Road 532 between 54th Street and 63rd Street. We completed the tree clearing work in the 4th quarter of 2023. It was done by a local contractor, McLeod Valley Sand and Gravel. Survey work was completed also in quarter number 4 in 2023 by McLehaney Ltd. Geotechnical investigation completed in quarter 1 of 2024 by MR Engineering. And we are currently preparing the tender for design for work in 2024. And these 2 pictures show the auger for the geotechnical investigation. And I need to be really transparent and convey what's happening because I was in site. There is a significant section on the west side of the road, which when I asked for geotechnical, I asked for a depth up to 3.5 meters. But when they were in site, they kept augering up to 6 meters, trying to find the bottom. But the whole depth was peat moss or muscat, right? Okay, thank you. So, So if I try to zoom in for this one, oh, sorry. It's all organic material. And just to clarify, this organic material, we have a high water table in this area, and this organic material is compressible. It's extremely compressible. So I'm expecting the design engineer will be taking every precaution. Mostly they will use J-grid, if not one layer, maybe 2 layers. However, there is still a potential for settlement. So we might start working on this road, and we might have to come back 6 months later after the freeze and thaw cycle to see if there is any settlement so we can backfill and repair. And this picture here shows how long it's almost 6 meters auger, and yet they could not find a solid layer of soil. 18th Avenue Rehabilitation. Design and engineering consultant is WSP, it's local consultant. The construction contractor is Parkway Enterprises Ltd. Construction notice circulated to the residents. We sent multiple notices to advise them on the construction dates, detours, road closure, temporary water connection. We're trying to keep residents up to date for every single action we take. We hand deliver notices. We publish it on our website, on our social media as well. We did the tree cutting removal work. It has been completed just for preparation for excavation for the water line. And today was the first actual day for construction. So if somebody drove by, you will see detour signs and the road is closed. This picture is showing the tree cutting almost 2 weeks ago. And today is May 21st, so as I mentioned, construction has already started. They have laid down area at the east side of 48th, at the intersection of 48th and 18th, where they have all their equipment, material, and a trailer for security guy to stay overnight. And these 2 pictures are just showing, if you see a black pipe laying on the ground, this is the temporary water connection. We are connecting the houses to a temporary water from the outside hose tab, and we will be turning their main valve off to ensure they have water during construction, because when we are constructing, we are disconnecting the water main for replacement or for replacing services. We did every precaution we can take. We have check valves here on both sides to ensure the water cannot return back in case there is a negative pressure in the network, so no water can go back to the network and cause contamination. I contacted the health and safety officer to ensure all our process is correct. We disinfected the line, and they should be connecting them on this line today or tomorrow. I'll move on to 54th Street and 10th Avenue sanitary upgrade. Design and engineering consultant is McLeany Ltd. Construction contractor is GS Holding Company, also known as GS Construction. And the construction timeline is, the construction commenced in April 29, 2024 at the intersection of 54th Street and First Ave. The anticipated work commencement on 10th Ave is June 20th. Also weather pending, it depends, because we had to shut down for a few days due to the rain. Anticipated project duration is approximately 90 working days, weather permitting. Another couple pictures showing the excavator cutting the ground for trench for the sanitary line. And this is the road closure on April 30th when they arrived. And these 2 pictures, one of them is showing the laydown area along 54th, and the other one here is showing the traffic plan implemented on Highway 16 eastbound. They are trying to finish this within 2 or 3 days, so hopefully by Friday the 3 lanes will be open back on Highway 16. As I mentioned, they had to shut down for a few days, so we maintained a wide 1 lane during the weekend. So far, I haven't heard any complaints, and we hope by Friday the whole intersection will be open. Upcoming projects for 2024. Was Creek construction. Shortly, we will hear a presentation from ISL Engineering regarding their study and their findings and different options. Library parking lot and stormwater improvement design, it hasn't started yet. Anticipated 2023 flood repair in 2024, ongoing with internal forces. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. McHale, for your in-depth presentation. Much appreciated. Council, any questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Chouinard.
Thank you for your presentation. I think you somewhat, over on 18th Avenue where we cut the trees down, I was asked, why did we cut them? We're digging water line in there? Is that what was going on?
Through Mayor to Council Chouinard, yes, you're correct. There is a water line on the boulevard. That's where the PRV is. And there is power line above the water line as well. So we had to clear the area to make sure there is enough room for the excavator to work without hitting the power lines. You're welcome.
Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor, thank you again for your presentation. And first off, thank you for getting the tenders out so early so we could start construction early May and not like September. So this is great to see this construction happening and hopefully completed soon. Just a question regarding 18th Ave with setting up the temporary water lines to the houses. Are we expecting them to have any water pressure issues within the homes or anything like that?
Thank you for the question and thank you for the compliment. Through Mayor to Council Taylor. No, there should not be any water pressure issues unless there is a fire and there is a demand for water. That's the only case we can draw water and it can impact the pressure. But so far there shouldn't because it's a 2-inch line providing enough pressure. You're welcome.
All right, Council, any further questions, comments, or concerns? All right, seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation, and I call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you.
And we will move on to our next item. Can I get a motion, please, that council accept the Waste Creek Flood Assessment and Upgrade Concepts Report as information? Go ahead, Councillor Chouinard.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And Mr. McHale will be presenting on this along with the folks from ISL this evening.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. In June 2023, we had a significant flood impacting our drainage system and impacting our infrastructure as well. The town retained ISL Engineering and Land Services to do a comprehensive study especially on Walls Creek, and they inspected the rest of our infrastructure. They kind of created a model and ran different scenarios to see where are the areas of improvement and what kind of different solutions we can come up with to mitigate this impact in the future if we get similar flood scenarios. From this moment, I will pass it along to Engineer Hoffert and Engineer Liu to present on their analysis and their findings and the different options they came up with.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Ermia, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Okay, so as mentioned, we're looking into Wass Creek specifically. So overall, we're looking at the drainage, the flooding, mitigation, and management of the flows through the Wass Creek area. Through the presentation here, we'll look at the engineering study objectives, existing drainage systems, flood risk areas, and recommended flood mitigation measures. So for this project, we worked directly with Armia McHale and Ryan O'Sullivan with the town of Edson. I'm Jordan Hoffert, project manager for this project. We also have Sophia Liu here, who is did a lot of the modeling work for the stormwater model And we had a senior advisor, Russell Barth, who has many years of experience with stormwater management and water resource engineering. He was unable to be here today, but we do have a good understanding ourselves, so. Okay, so the existing drainage system, just a bit of background, and I'm sure that, you know, you're very familiar with Wass Creek, but it is one of 3 creeks that runs right through the town of Edson. What we're seeing here is the urban catchment that's highlighted in orange around here. So basically anything within this boundary is what contributes to the flows of Wass Creek. Of note is the outlet, which is at the, I guess, the southeast corner by Highway 16 and the CN rail that basically is parallel to the avenues there. So there is some, we'll get into the details, I guess, but there are lots that border the CN rail where this creek is currently located, which is of significant note for this project. To the north of town, there is an additional catchment that does contribute to the Wass Creek drainage. This area is fairly large, but does have a slower runoff for contributing to the Wass Creek basin. But these flows do flow through town as well. So the objectives, and just to preface, these photos are not actually of Edson. They're just for representation purposes.
A little dramatic.
Yeah. So yeah, what we want to do with the study is to understand the stormwater flow for the creek and all the contributing areas. So with the urban and the rural, as well as with any pipe flow that discharges into the creek. And then from that, we want to use a computer simulation for modeling those flows and specifically so that we can quantify and identify any areas that might be at risk. And then we can also use that tool to propose different flood mitigation measures that may be needed. So as mentioned, there's the 2 catchments, the urban through town and then the rural to the north. I think it just gives a good representation of size of how much water or area would be contributing to this. Of note is how the 2 catchments work together, or independently, I should say. When rainfall happens in the urban area, runoff is very quick due to high imperviousness through town on asphalt or pavement areas. Through the storm pipes, it's collected and efficiently conveyed to Wass Creek. So the stormwater that lands within that catchment actually gets to the creek quite quickly. Conversely to that, the north catchment is actually quite slow. There's a high level of perviousness. It is usually at a lower grade with a lot of vegetation that allows for infiltration into the soils, and runoff from this area typically wouldn't peak until much later than the urban, which was confirmed through the modeling. So I'll just pass it over to Sophia. She'll run through what the model consisted of and what some of the components of that were.
So to assess the Wass Creek drainage system, we developed an integrated 1D, 2D model, and this model consists of a 1D component and a 2D component. The 1D component is basically your underground drainage system, so it consists of the storm pipes, manholes, culverts, and catch basins. The 2D component is basically the ground surface of your catchment area, so it includes the roadways, the ditches, and also Wass Creek. So how the 2 models integrate together is when water falls onto the surface or the 2D component of the model. Some of it can enter the underground drainage system through the catch basins and then flowing through storm pipes and eventually all falling into to Wasp Creek. And then some of the water will not make it into the catch basins. It'll flow overland on the surface and eventually into Wasp Creek. So with this integrated 1D, 2D model, it allows us to evaluate both like the underground drainage system as well as how water flows on the surface to identify potential areas with flood risk and evaluate the performance of Wasp Creek. So on the map here, we are showing the results from our model under a 1 in 100-year design event. So 1 in 100-year event is just it's a statistical event, meaning it's a rain event that would occur once every 100 years. So this is the design storm that's also used on previous stormwater studies in the town of Edson. So we used the same storm to evaluate Wasp Creek. So the colors here indicate the maximum depth of ponding or water depth within the catchment area, and you can see that there is higher depth of water within Wasp Creek in the red and purple areas. But the good news is water is generally contained within the creek, and there is generally minimal ponding on the roadways. In this area, there is one location on 48th Street where we're seeing a little bit more ponding on the roadway. Typically, for roadways, we design it up to a maximum ponding depth of about a foot or 300 mils. So in this case, we're seeing up to about half a meter of ponding. So this is a potential area where we would recommend upgrades to improve or reduce the ponding depth on the road. And then just to run through other areas along the creek. So again here, water is contained within the creek and there is minimal ponding on the roadways. And same here as well, we're containing the water within the creek. So we've been seeing, I guess, positive things about the creek up to here. And once the creek reaches First Avenue, we also identified some additional ponding on First Avenue just west of 48th Street. So again, we're seeing up to about half meter of ponding. So this is another area where some surface upgrades would improve or reduce the depth of ponding. Also starting here, Wasp Creek turns east and then flows along a portion of the existing right-of-way, and it also starts to route through private properties along the CN rail. So as it goes further downstream or east on the right side of the page, you can see that the creek does not have enough capacity to contain all the water, and there is some water spilling out onto adjacent properties. And then towards the downstream end, we're seeing worse ponding. So again, there's a culvert here on lot 5 that's restricting some flow. So there is water spilling out onto the private properties. And then Wasp Creek discharges through a 900 millimeter culvert that crosses Highway 16. And this culvert is undersized, so it's restricting flow as well. And then we're seeing more ponding on the adjacent properties. So with that, there's one more slide. So just to summarize what we've observed from the model results, generally in the upstream portion of the creek, there is enough capacity and flow is contained within the creek. However, it is a natural creek, so any say fallen trees or debris in the creek system could overload the system and cause flooding risk. So it's important to maintain the creek and culverts. We identified some minor flooding risk on the roadway at 2 locations, one being on 48th Street near the north end of the system, and the other one being on First Avenue west of 48th Street. We also saw significant flood risk on many properties that's next to the CN rail, where the creek does not have enough capacity to contain the water, so there's flooding onto the adjacent properties. We also just want to highlight some of the issues regarding the properties adjacent to the CN rail. So the creek channel routes through those private properties, and there is no access by the town staff to maintain or inspect the creek. There is a undersized culvert as well as the undersized outlet that's restricting flow, causing further flood risk to the properties. And then these culverts and the outlets also located on a private property, so it's not accessible by town staff, or it has limited access. And then again, the undersized channel routing through property has there is limited access by the town in order to upgrade or widen the channel. And with the significant amount of flooding, there is limitations to being able to develop those lands adjacent to the CN rail. So with that, I'll pass it back to Jordan.
Okay, so some recommended mitigation measures. So obviously with Wasp Creek being a natural creek for the most part through town, there are some, ditch sections that are easily maintained, but for the mature growth of forest and those creek areas, buildup of any, fallen trees or large deposits after large rain events of sediment can impede future flows and impact flooding specifically. So the one thing I guess to note with our model that we did was we have to assume that there is a certain limitation to the obstructions, and that we assume that it's primarily free flowing for the alignment of the creek. So maintenance of the creek itself is recommended, on an annual basis to inspect and remove any of the large obstructions that might limit flow through the creek, specific within the town area itself. So those are things that would just be ongoing that could be done to help manage the creek. And then as noted, there was a couple roadway areas that had some potential ponding as well. So I think that with those two areas, there could be opportunistic opportunities where you could incorporate improvements within any roadway upgrades that may be planned in the future. Or specific to this, you could look at more of a detailed approach to quantify what those impacts might be, and if there are some, fairly straightforward solutions that could be done. So focusing on the south end, I think this is obviously the more important area where there was flooding. So what we've done is we've looked at flooding through the area here and understanding that with a creek that's on private property, that there's limited maintenance, that it in itself is significant risk for flooding. If there was any alterations or changes to the creek, or someone drops in culvert without anyone knowing, it can have some fairly significant impacts. So for the town to be able to manage that, we looked at solutions that would allow the town to have full access while limiting impact to the lots specifically. So with this upgrade A, and it'll carry into an upgrade B, so it's essentially a staged upgrade that what we look at is trying to realign that creek into an engineered channel through the First Avenue right-of-way. In doing so, it provides, full access by town staff to do any maintenance. It's much more manageable that way. And by diverting it off the private lots here, we're able to actually widen the cross-section of it, giving it larger capacity so that it can actually convey more flows and even provide some storage component to it. So that's what's shown here, where upgrade A, it takes this very close adjacent creek and diverts it into the road right-of-way right beside it. When the creek heads further or closer to the CN railway, that's where we basically stop upgrade A. But the upgrades within this stage itself, you can see the two lines that are shown. The blue is what is the existing condition where the flooding level is quite high and significant. And then with the upgrades in this section, what we're able to do is to bring that flooding level down considerably. At the same time, we can do regrading of 48th Street and First Avenue so that there's no more flooding there and bring that water into the creek. Of note is that part of this upgrade is also the removal of this culvert that is on Lot 5, which is undersized and does cause backup flows as well. So it's right now I would see it's kind of a minor component, but it does have an impact. So if we remove that culvert, then we can see some immediate benefits to the existing creek. On this upgrade, we'll note that there is still significant flooding and depth of ponding on lots 1, 2, and 3, most specifically. This area is currently acting as a natural storage element for the creek. And noting that the culvert itself, the outlet culvert, is undersized. I just wanted to kind of touch on this a little bit, is that upsizing the culvert itself would be able to improve some of the drainage here. It doesn't address the lack of access that the town would have to maintain the creek itself, though. That would still be a risk. And so what we're going through with upgrade A and B is showing that if we address the problem of getting access to the creek for maintenance and increasing the channel itself, is that we don't actually need to increase the size of the culvert in order to address that problem. But there are some lot implications that go with that approach as well. So there's a couple different scenarios that we could discuss about how that would work. But for now, the upgrade is, like I said at the start, is trying to maximize the benefits and improve the drainage while minimizing impact to the lots. And so in the previous slide, we're improving the ability to actually use lots 7 through 12. And then in upgrade B, actually, this is just a summary of that. Yeah, so the key point here, I guess, is the estimated cost of 1.3 million. So this is really just the improvement of the ditch cross-section and locating that within the First Avenue right-of-way, and then some of the minor improvements at First Avenue and 48th Street. So that would be the estimated cost for that improvement for upgrade A. When we talk about upgrade B, so effectively the improvements to upgrade A have already been completed. So we have the channel running through the First Avenue right-of-way. But then at the deviation of the creek alignment, we extend that channel through First Avenue right-of-way, and we see additional benefits for reduced flooding. So you can see the adjacent lots here essentially not impacted because of the construction of this upgrade B component. Of note, obviously, though, is that there still is required to have a storage component to allow for this to function, but this is still with the 900 millimeter culvert that crosses this. So with the maintaining the outlet at that size and the addition of storage on lots 2 and 3, it would allow for elimination, as the model shows, from lots 4 through 12. So again, this is the limiting of impact to lots and maximizing drainage management opportunities. So basically it exemplifies that we could upgrade the outlet culvert. However, based on, just the use of the land that we have here, that we don't necessarily need to, because there is a storage component to this already. because this area is quite low-lying. So we did look at other options of maybe not using lots 2 and 3, but upstream, lots 4, 5, and further upstream. But none of the efficiency of using lots 2 and 3, because they were already naturally low-lying, the benefit was too great, and we saw this as the most viable option for this upgrade. So essentially, it's a two-part solution. Upgrade B cost would be 2.4 million, in conjunction with the 1.3 from upgrade A. So that would be 3.7 total. So that would be the upgrade for increasing the conveyance through the channel in the First Avenue right-of-way, and then controlling with the stormwater management facility on lots 2 and 3. So this is the approach that we took for this. There's other options that would be tied into, I guess, lot ownership or acquisition or establishment of easements that could be done as well, that could potentially reduce those costs and really change the scope of what would be required for that. So to summarize, early action measures is maintenance and removal of debris to maintain conveyance capacity through the existing creek. Upgrade A, we can look at the improvements right on First Avenue and 48th Street, and then widen the creek within First Avenue right away for, I guess, from lots 8 to 11 for an estimated cost of 1.3 million. The benefits of those is that it does mitigate flood risk on First Avenue that currently exists, and would provide for development on lots 8 through 11. Upgrade B continues on with the use of First Avenue right-of-way, and then includes a need for a stormwater management facility on lots 2 and 3 for an estimated cost of 2.4 million, with the benefits being a fully controlled system for the 1 in 100-year design event with no flooding on any private properties. Currently seeing that. It also maintains any downstream impacts that might exist. The one thing to note of increasing culvert size of the outlet is that the downstream impacts would not be, I guess, fully recognized through simply a Wash Creek study, and would have to expand to include Poplar Creek as well, and the effects of any adjacent properties downstream. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation, Council. Move on to Councillor Chachka. Go ahead.
Thank you, through the mayor, to our presenters, Mr. Hoffert and Ms. Liu. Thank you for the in-depth information in the package that showed all the alternatives about why you maybe wouldn't go this way or that way. That's really appreciated. My question is regarding the creek channel through the private property and no access by town staff. How, and maybe you can't answer this, I'm not sure. So is someone allowed to just put in a culvert into a creek without special permissions from like Fisheries and Oceans? And then I thought there were easements for government access to access creeks within the easement of the creeks. Can you go to a little in depth? I'm not sure if you know why we wouldn't be able to access something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so yeah, real good question. The creeks that are, defined through Alberta environment, essentially, would be covered under Water Act. So any alterations or changes or work within that waterway itself needs to abide by Water Act requirements. And so that would have to be done through an application process. The challenge, I guess, is Alberta environment doesn't necessarily have the means to inspect and check every creek all the time. And over the course of time, things happen that may or may not get recorded or reported. So that would be the risk here. I think the access of that creek being an actual named creek is that it does allow for maintenance or access to it, but within the confines of the defined creek channel itself. Adjacent access might be limited for that reason. So effectively, to bring any equipment in is still going to require, adjacent or riparian access that isn't available through private property. So maintenance of the creek itself would likely fall then to the property owner where the creek runs through it, as opposed to the town in this case. But the town, I see, has a vested interest in maintenance of that to protect infrastructure.
Mr. Briscoe, you have something you would like to add? Come on up.
Sorry to interrupt. Mayor and Councilor, if I can answer that question. Probably 20 plus years ago, all those lots were privately owned by CN. So that culvert was put in by CN to access the other side of their property. About 18 years ago, CN subdivided all of those lots and they sold them off by bid. So that's why they're now privately owned. But before that, it was all CN's property. So that culvert that is in question was actually put in by CN so that CN could access easily their other lots that they owned before they sold them off. Hopefully that answers your questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chouinard.
Thank you for your presentation. Actually, Councillor Chechka asked part of it. The second part of it, where you said we would make the culvert bigger going under Highway 16, is that in the estimated right now 2.4, or what would that cost to put that culvert bigger? We'd have to bore under the highway.
Right. So that culvert itself would be sized at about a 2.1 meter diameter to convey the flows that currently would be needed to go through there without any storage upstream considerations, or a twin 1500. There are a couple different options. The cost would be, I would say, comparable to the upgrade A and B costs. However, it doesn't address the access and maintenance and risk associated with upstream creek itself.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to town administration. One of the things our presenters brought up was just preventative maintenance and removing debris and things like that. Is that something that sort of we've already started and be added to sort of ongoing operational things that we can take care of just as a preventative method?
Mr. Kidlitz.
Thank you. I'm going to defer that to Mr. O'Sullivan, who's here. He might be able to shed some light on what transportation is working on with terms of maintenance.
Through the mayor to Councillor Taylor. Yes, we are trying to get some of the pathways in there, but a lot of it's stuck in between the trails and stuff. So it's hand walking and hand removing. So it's slow and tedious, but we are trying to get to a lot of those culvert and plugged areas.
Councillor Chechka. Thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan.
Thank you. Through the mayor to our presenters. So you mentioned that easement access for the creeks could be established. If there was an event that a property owner did not want to allow us an easement access, could they be held liable for any flood damage? Now that this information is here and we know about this, so now we can do better, and it's been recorded?
Well, I wouldn't, I don't think that I would be in a position to advise on a legal component of whether they could be held liable for it. I think that would certainly, it would trigger a lot of questions though, as to if a flood happened, who's responsible for, the maintenance of it.
Thank you, Council. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? So I guess this would be a question maybe to Mr. Kitlitz. Obviously, we are doing upgrades at 18th Avenue. Construction started today. Maybe our capital projects engineer could speak to this, but are any of those upgrades going to help with what has been presented to us this evening? They talked about pulling on 48th Street, things of that nature. Or is that something that we'd be looking forward to when we actually do some upgrades on 48th Street?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure. I'd have to defer to Mr. McCall, but I don't think they're contemplating this project, but go ahead.
I can answer that. To answer your question, Mr. Mayor, no, the improvement for 18th, we're just doing the improvement for 48th, which is the exact width almost of 18th Avenue. The portion Mr. Hoffert indicated here is north of 18th, which is not part of this project. So this will be a future project.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, council, any further questions, comments, concerns? Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to close this, if council's done with any of these questions, is that the next steps is to put out a tender for the design of this project. This is basically some concepts that ISL worked on for us. We asked them to look for other solutions and options, right? So the next step would be to do that. Still got some work to do, and the land dealings are ongoing, and so we'll see where we end up.
All right, thank you. There's no further questions or comments. Thank you very much for your presentation. You're free to stay for the rest of the meeting, or we understand if you want to call it a night. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, council. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried unanimously. Can I get a motion, please, that council proclaim the week of May 27th to 31st as Alberta Rural Health Week in the town of Edson? Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor, and we'll hand things over to Mr. Hanlon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to all members of council, I'm on page 281 of your agenda package this evening. Rural health care providers are valuable resources in our community, improving the quality of life in rural areas with their skills and practices, making significant personal contributions in the community. Further, they are often teaching and mentoring future rural health care providers. The Rural Health Professionals Action Plan have identified May 27th to 31st, 2024 as Alberta Rural Health Week in Alberta.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Pretty straightforward. Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Can I get a motion that council approve $75,000 to cover the cost of rehabilitating the Ridgeview Campground to be funded from the Revenue Sharing Agreement Reserve? Go ahead, Councillor Chachka.
I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Chachka, and we'll hand things over to Mr. Kitlitz on this item this evening.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Again, I just have a short verbal presentation to supplement the report. So as noted, administration has received 3 quotes from local contractors to complete the scope of work to restore the Ridgeview Campground at Wilmore Park to a safe state so that the Rotary Club can rent sites out for the remainder of the 2024 camping season. The scope of work includes removal of the existing brush piles, mulching of the remaining tree stumps and some of the other materials that are on the site, regrading and repairing of the road, and of course any of the damaged camping pads would get some regrading and patch up as well. Should council support the motion, administration will enter into a contract with Tech Logging Limited, which is the recommendation, to complete this reclamation work, which is expected to take about 3 weeks from the start date of them getting mobilized and on site. Just wanted to make note of some new information that administration received actually just last Friday from the contractor who's been hired to replace the outhouse, new washrooms at the Ridgeview Campground. They initially stated that the concrete tanks wouldn't be here till the end of August. We have an update. They should be here June 19th-ish. So those are the structures that need to go first so they can build the facilities above. So the timing should line up fairly well. By the time the contractor's done with the reclamation, they should be able to go in and replace those tanks and then start building those facilities, which shouldn't take too long. They're pretty simple structures. So if we do, in the event that we do have to rent some portable washrooms, it could be for a shorter period. It won't be for the whole season. It could just be for a few weeks if all the stars align and everything works out as planned. So I'm not going to go over it in detail, but the report does address some of the other questions that the Rotary Club had when they made their presentation, delegation to council on May 12th. Certainly, I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have, but I won't go over those in detail at this point. So that concludes my presentation, Mr. Mayor. If there's anything council has to ask, we're happy to help you.
Thank you, Mr. Kitlitz. Go ahead, Councillor Chenard.
Through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz, very pleased with this, and I like your choice taking 2 because 3. So if all stars align, they could have this open by July 1st. If that's where, like, I'm in favor of doing it because of our bike park. Let's get it up and running. So very in favor of. If we can get it opening by July 1st, that'd be a great thing.
Thank you, council. Any further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Mr. Kitlitz, just a question through to you. So this clearing or the cleanup of the brush piles, mulching, etc., is that something that maybe this might be a question for Mr. Trabish? Is this something that we're able to apply through the disaster recovery fund to reclaim some of those costs back since it was caused by the wildfire?
Yeah, I can answer that, Mr. Mayor. So the information we got back from AEMA on it was we had to provide a quote for the work. And so now that we have that, we will submit that to them, and then they're going to do an analysis and try to see if they can include it in. So we don't know that yet, but now we have the information we need to at least get it in front of them so they can answer the questions. So we're trying. It remains to be seen whether we'll get funding for that or yet not.
All right, thank you. Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. Through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz. I know the motion here is for the campground area work. There is a little bit of other area within the Wilmore Park, most specifically Route 66. It's a trail that is on the south side of the road between the river and the road that you drive into on Wilmore Park, and there's a bunch of blackburnt trees. Is there any requirement to mitigate the risk there any further, or is the trail open, or is it safe to go there? I'm not sure how the trees are impacted after a fire, and just if we have a plan for that going forward.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is the first I've heard of this trail. So I don't have an answer for that. I don't know, Mr. O'Sullivan, do you have an answer for that? Because, yeah, I'm not sure.
Come on up, Mr. O'Sullivan.
Through the chair to Councillor Trecha. Yes, the trail is open. They did a bunch of looking through all the trees, and they took down everything that they believed that was dangerous at the time. So it's going to be an ongoing process to remove more dangerous trees in the area when it comes through.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kitlitz and Mr. O'Sullivan. Any other further questions or comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. All right, I think we're done with you tonight, Mr. Kitlitz. Can I get a motion, please, that council accept the May 21st, 2024 information items as set out in attachments 1 to 4 for information? Go ahead, Councillor Moore.
I shall move.
Thank you. And I think we have Ms. Veerboom. I don't know if she has anything she needs to add to this. No? Okay. We have no real presentation. I think the numbers are pretty self-explanatory there. And Staff Sergeant Dalal did present on our stats not that long ago. So good trends in many areas. If there's no questions, I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. No sundry items. Council committee reports. We are going back to May the 8th. And we will start today with Councillor Chachka.
Okay. On May 8th, I attended the Safety Day with the Town of Edson and the staff appreciation. It was very nice to be able to thank the staff for all their hard work and everything they do. May 14th, I attended the Committee of the Whole meeting. May 16th, the Community Futures West Yellowhead meeting. It was just a quick update as staff have been busy with our year-end financials. And also on that note, though, we do have the business walks on this Thursday, May 23rd, so please come out and help if you're able. And on May 21st, this afternoon, I attended the YCE Multiplex Steering Committee meeting, which was just a brief update to say they're on track.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
On May 8th, I attended the staff appreciation lunch, which was great, to thank all the staff for the great work that they do. May 14th, I had Committee of the Whole meeting. May 15th, we had our library board meeting. Quick update on their incredible fundraising they're doing. They've raised just under $120,000, which includes the silent auction where they raised $6,000, and a couple of brief little shout outs. We have Techmation Electric Controls donated about $1,000. Johnson & Herbert donated $3,000. Camlin Energy $2,000. and the Ma family donated $3,000, and TC Energy donated $7,500 to cover the cost of new computers for the facility, which is great. We're looking to probably close the library somewhere around June 12th, give or take. That's the temporary location to begin the move back, which will be about a 4-week-ish process. And we're expected to open sometime mid-July is kind of where we're earmarking, early to mid-July. So still exciting times happening there, and that is my report.
Thank you. Councillor Bevan?
On the 14th, committee of the whole meeting, and a Zoom meeting for Community Futures was held ahead on the 16th.
Thank you, Councillor Bevan. Councillor Chenard?
Let's cooperate. Am I live now? Okay, on May 14th, cow meeting, and I won't report on the ribbon cutting on the 15th.
Councillor Moore?
Yes, thank you. May 8th, Town of Edson Staff Appreciation Day and Safety Day, and I got to do a little bussing on there. Kind of reminded me of my days as a white spot car hop. But I won't talk about that very much. Anyway, May 14th, Committee of the Whole meeting. And you may be wondering why I'm wearing this jersey tonight. Well, Councillor Taylor and I had a nice little, a nice little bet going on, and of course I lost the bet.
You look great tonight, though.
Oh, thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
And thank him for the
And
jersey.
and thank you for the jersey and other word, and as well, if I had a won, you would have had your pick of one of 7 Canuck jerseys because they changed the jerseys a lot.
There's always next year.
Yes, true. Thanks. Yeah.
Councillor Pisichny?
The 8th Chamber of Commerce meeting, on the 14th Committee of the Whole, earlier today, multiplex meeting. That is my report.
Thank you, Councillor Pisichny. May 8th, Staff Appreciation and Health and Safety Day. It was great to serve lunch to our staff and say thanks. May 14th, Committee of the Whole, and then today I had the multiplex meeting. All right, we have no financial items. Questions from media and public regarding items from this council meeting?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm Joanne Sobon. I have just a couple questions about the land use bylaw. Public hearing, do we bring up items if we don't agree with what's put in? So there was some changes made. If we don't agree with the changes that were made, is that the time to bring up the items, or how do we bring that forward?
Yeah, so as long as they're related to the changes that we made from the first public hearing. So obviously there's some items that you had concerns about. So if you're still not happy, that would be the time to bring that up again during the public hearing.
So, and there's another question or
Sure.
in related to that. So there's no other discussion except the stuff that's in that log that's been brought up in the log? Like there's no other discussions about anything that might have been missed or something?
You certainly can bring up other items, but, basically our focus for that public hearing will be on the changes from the first and the second reading, because we already heard all the comments during the first public hearing, so.
What about items, just another question.
Sure.
What about items that have been changed in the proposed draft, but are not listed in the log, but they've been changed in the draft? What do we do about those items?
You could bring those up, I believe, as well during the public hearing, if there are certain things. I think you probably could also make a written submission as well ahead of time.
Okay.
So
is there supposed to be changes in there that aren't in the log, or like how does that?
I can't really speak to that. I don't know, Mr. Kitlitz, if you're able to speak to that or not.
So quickly, Mr. Mayor, no, there shouldn't be. That wasn't our intention to put things that weren't in the log, but if there's something that you found, bring it to our attention. We'll look at it.
Councillor Pisichny. Yep. As I mentioned, our focus is going to be on the changes, though.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Go ahead, Councillor Pisichny. Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Any other members of the public? No? Okay. We have no closed meeting items. Motion for adjournment. Go ahead. Councillor Chenard.
I'll make the motion for adjournment.
Thank you. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.